Timetable.
On the timetable. So
We have it today.
that is why we are having history this moment. And so we are not going to be doing our normal class. We're just gonna we are going to make the class what's the word? We are going to make
Interesting. Fun.
an interactive one. That's the word. Interactive class. So I'm going to be throwing out questions on Odwola. Why are you on mute? So I'm going to be throwing questions on our previous topics for this term to see if we are really abreast with things we've done. So we started with major centralized states, right?
Yes, sir.
And I gave you definition of centralized states.
Yes, sir.
And so Odwola, what's the definition of a centralized state?
What is who?
Definition of a centralized state. Or what are centralized states?
Oh, a centralized state is a state that has like a proper leader.
Proper leader. Is that a definition? Coach Ebo, welcome. Shola, what's a definition, or what's the definition of centralized state?
I got a badge. I do like games and a lot of badges.
You bring
Centralized state is a state that is politically organized and directly
Guys, from downstairs, sir. Let me mute myself.
Y'all bring them here, and we don't think
Olayinka, switch off that.
Yes.
Sir?
I can hear you, Shola.
Centralized state is politically ruled by a body of government.
Yeah, it's correct, but I'm still not satisfied. Ibikunle Oluwadamife, yes. What are centralized states? I can barely hear you, please.
Centralized states are states
Yeah.
that are governed.
Okay. Are you reading it from your notes?
Sir, she is.
She said she's not. So, okay, I can hear you. Okay. Speak.
States.
Yep.
Centralized states are states that are governed by
Okay.
the government, that are ruled by governments. Governments, yes.
You people are not reading. You guys have an idea.
Sir. No, please, I know.
Okay. Did you want to check your textbook or your notes?
Sir, no.
Be honest. Be honest. Speak the truth.
Seriously.
All right, say it. Oluwa, define it for us.
Sir,
Centralized states is a state which is like is a centralized is a state with centralized governments.
Smart.
States are states that are a group of people.
No, I thought I got it right.
Shall I let us hear yours? Let us listen.
I said it was right. I said it was right.
Centralized states. Centralized states.
A centralized state are states that are politically organized.
Yes, that are politically organized with a defined political system.
And controlled by a body of government.
By one body of government, yes. You're right. So a round of applause for Shola. So centralized states are states that are politically organized and directly controlled by a body of governments. Is that right? It is as simple as that. Ademide Adegoge, mute yourself. Right. So we also spoke about characteristics of centralized states. So Naima, you're welcome. Give us one characteristic of a centralized state. One characteristic.
What did you say?
Give me one characteristic of a centralized state. Shola already defined centralized states. Yes? You're looking at your textbook.
I know my daughter.
I see the same thing. I want a kind of class that, you know, immediately I ask you that question, it should be part of you.
So
right?
what was the question?
I'm actually directing this particular question to Naima.
They are monarchy.
Monarchical system of government.
Sir, I know one.
Okay, yes, she's correct. Centralized states usually adopt, headed by monarchies.
Sir,
either by king or by, they are headed by kings or by queens or by
they are
emperors.
ruled by a dynasty.
Wait, if I ask, wait until I call you now. Ibitoye.
They have existing council of chiefs.
Council, not council. They have existing council of chiefs. That's number 2. Oreoluwa.
Absence of separation of power.
Absence of separation of power, because power is in the hand of one individual. That was when, you know, when we spoke about the major empires such as Oyo Empire, talked about Kane Borno, talked about Hausa land. We have the Emir, we have the Alaafin, right? And we have the May. Did we discuss all of them?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So absence of separation of power. Who's there? Silva. Give me another characteristic. Silva, give me another characteristic of a centralized state. Another characteristic of a centralized state. Silva is not speaking. Silva, are you there? Okay, let us move on to Anika.
So I just joined.
Okay. Give me one characteristic of we're talking about centralized state, and Shola already defined centralized states. So we are moving on to the characteristic of centralized states. Somebody mentioned that they're usually monarchical in nature. Another person mentioned that there's absence of separation of power. So I'm saying you should give us another one.
I don't hear you.
Hello, can you hear me now, please?
No, sir.
How did you know I asked the question? Can you hear me now? Can you hear what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so don't worry, we'll come back to you. In the process of the class, you will hear me. Let me move on to Anika. Have you spoken?
No, sir.
Okay, give us another characteristic of a centralized state.
The centralized state is adding existing taxation system, which is
presence. You are reading it from somewhere. There's presence of taxation system. No. Yes, taxation system is highly encouraged in centralized states. That is brilliant. Kamal.
Sir.
Give us another characteristic.
Sir, I just joined.
You should know it, don't you? Okay, let us move.
Yes,
Let us move. Ademide.
Sir, they have the standard law.
Standard law. Did I? Okay, don't let me talk. I want you guys, you're going to be the one doing most of the talking today. Ademide, where are you?
I'm here, sir.
Speak. Give us one characteristic, one
They
feature.
have existing council of.
Somebody mentioned that, Ibitoye mentioned that earlier, existing council of chiefs. Ibitoye mentioned that. Did we mention the presence of checks and balances?
So I hope so.
Yes. Presence of checks and balances.
Sir, which one?
There's no how you can escape this particular question in your exam and in your test. You can't escape it. So it is better you make it.
Taxation system.
Presence of taxation system. Yes, what else?
That's all.
A centralized state. Did I mention that centralized states are usually large in nature? They have big territories.
Yes,
Did I mention it?
Yes.
Did I also mention that
Existence
now
of
we are
vassal states.
even though you already have the notes on the portal, you guys are still acting as if
Existence of vassal
state. I wanted to mention that existence of vassal states because you know they are usually large, and it is in the nature of centralized state to have vassal state, to have provinces under them. So that is that. So we moved on to Hausa Empire, right? We spoke about the origin of the Hausa state or the Hausa people, right? Now I'm going to be throwing this question to Silva. Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Now, can you explain to me the legend of Bayajida? What do you understand by the legend of Bayajida? Have you heard that name before?
No.
You've not heard Bayajida before?
No.
Please, if you've heard Bayajida, thumbs up. Thumbs up. Okay. Shola, Adegoke, Oreoluwa, Kama, Ibitoye, who's there? Naima. So, majority I've heard of it, which I actually taught you guys when we discussed about the Hausa state, but I don't know why you're saying you haven't heard of it before. Or were you absent in class when we discussed it? Were you absent in class when we discussed it?
I have not fully joined the class then.
Okay, did you get the notes? Did you check your portal to check for the notes? Did you get the notes?
Sir, the notes is important.
Yes, have you downloaded it? Have you gone through them? Why? You see, it's your fault. I want you to update yourself, get the notes, read it, or I'll be calling on another person so you listen to the explanation. So who am I going to be calling?
Sir.
Okay, Adegoke. Explain to us the legend of Bayajida.
Bayajida migrated from Iraq and settled in Daura. He married the princess of Daura, and he had
Where in Iraq? Where in Iraq?
Children.
Where in Iraq did he migrate from?
Baghdad.
I was asking Ademide. Okay, yes, he actually migrated from Baghdad. All right, Ademide, continue.
And he married the princess of, and he settled in Daura.
Before he got to Daura, he settled where? Where did he settle before he settled at Daura?
Now you told us that he first settled at Daura and then he killed.
No, before he settled at Daura, he got to somewhere, which is actually important to this to the origin of Yoruba. To the origin of Hausa state. Yes, Naima, where did he settle?
Borno.
He settled at Kanem Borno. Settled at Borno. Are you taking notes at Adegoke?
Yes, sir.
Now, so he settled at Bornu. He married a princess at Bornu, and the princess gave birth to a son called what? Yes, Shola?
Biram.
Biram. The princess gave birth to a son called Biram before he moved to Daura. Yes, Adegoke, you can continue. I hope you're taking note of this vital information.
Yes, sir.
Yes. So when he got to Daura, yes, he killed a snake. And afterwards, what happened?
The people.
Okay.
And
Yes. Yes. I think Adegoke is lost. Let us move on to who is going to continue. Shola.
So after
No, wait, Shola, wait. Let us move. Let us make it a gender balanced class. So Adegoke already took it to you already explained to an extent. So Ibikunle, continue from where Adegoke stopped.
Okay, sir.
So
So
after I killed the snake, what happened afterwards?
the people were able to fetch water every day, not only on Fridays.
Okay. They were able to what?
Then they were able to fetch water. Sir, you know that when the snake was in the well, only on Fridays that the people were able to fetch water.
Yes. So
So
afterwards,
when
people
Bayajida
were able to get water anytime
fetch
they
water
wanted.
yes, sir.
Okay. So
So Bayajida, he met the princess of
right, let us move. Ibitoye.
Sir,
Yes. Continue from where
so where did
Ibikunle
this
stopped.
stop?
She stopped that people were now, after Bayajida killed the mysterious snake, people were now, they were able to get water anytime they wanted. So what was the significant thing that happened afterwards?
He married the queen of Daura.
Perfect. So he married, but before he married the queen of Daura, something happened. What happened? Before he married the queen of Daura, something happened in between.
He married a princess.
Princess? No, not the princess.
Before now.
Did I mention a Gwari slave?
Yes.
Oh.
Did I mention the Gwari slave, guys? And I said the slave, the queen, due to the fact that she was a queen, she was unable to marry Bayajida immediately. So she had to go through some ritual procedures that will enable her to get married, right? And so in between, when the ritual was going on, she gave one of her slaves, a Gwari slave, to Bayajida, and they also had a son. Did I mention the name Kabagari? Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
I mentioned the name Kabagari. So we already have Biram, right? We have Biram. Biram was given birth to by the queen in Bornu. Then he moved down to Daura and had a concubine that was given to him by the queen of Daura, and they had a son called Kabagari. And so when the queen finally married Bayajida, they had a son called who?
Bawo.
Called Bawo. Correct. So now let us break it down. Now, I said afterwards, we now have the 7 legitimate Hausa states, right? And we have the 7 illegitimate. The seven illegitimate were given birth to by Kabagari.
Yes.
And by the son given birth to by the Gwari slave. Why the 7 legitimate 6 out of the 7, 6 out of the 7 was given birth to Bawo, by Bawo rather. Do you understand? Bawo,
No.
the 6 children out of Bawo children made up the part of the legitimate state. Then Biram made it 7th. Are you with me? Are you confused? Bawo had 6 children. Bawo had 6 children together with Biram, the Bornu child. Okay, they now made up the 7 legitimate. For example, now let us look at the 7 legitimate Hausa states and see if we are wrong. Part of the 7 legitimate Hausa states, we have Daura. Can you mention them? Yes, Daura. After Daura, what do we have? We have Kano, we have Katsina, we have Zaria, we have Gobe, we have Rano, and we have Biram.
Biram.
You understand? And Biram was given birth to by who? The Borno queen.
Princess Bornu.
Yes. So do you understand now? So there's a kind of mix up that you need to understand there. Biram was direct son of who? Of Bayajida. But the 6 others were direct son of who? Of Bawo. Do you get it?
Yes, sir.
Now moving on from there, now we also have the 7 illegitimate given birth to by Kabugari. Actually, if you check your textbook, if you want to follow your textbook, I contacted the person that wrote this textbook and I told him that there's a mix-up in his account, in his analysis. And the person, I'm very sure, is going to adjust it. Do you understand me? So please, don't follow your textbook. Follow the note I've given you and the explanation I'm making in class. Are we good to go? Hello, guys.
Hello, sir.
Yes,
Do you
sir.
understand me? Do you understand me?
Yes, sir.
Good.
Yes, sir.
Perfect. So now let us look at, so everybody, you're going to contribute to this.
Yes,
Can you
sir.
give me list of the 7 illegitimate Hausa states? You're also going to, this exam, this is a particular question you should also expect in any test or exam. So you should know those names of art. Yes? Examples of, what's wrong with the network? Mr. Shedeke, Ejema called me Shema upload to 20 minutes. Guys, are we together?
Yes, sir.
So I said, let
Yes,
us
sir.
make this interactive. Can you give me examples of the illegitimate Hausa states?
Zamfara.
Yes, I love that. Please, if you want to speak, please just raise up your hand so we don't cause confusion. Yes, Shala.
Zamfara.
Zamfara. Guys, you see that Shola that just came in from the UK is even more interested in African history. So what is our excuse?
Ale, I'm guessing.
Me too, I'm foreign, but I'm just trying to, get
Sir,
it.
you're not foreign. Oh.
I'm not foreign.
Yes, sir.
So I'm Paco. I think I deserve an apology. Because
Sorry,
I'm not forming phone. All right. Shola mentioned Zamfara. Another one, Naima, yes? Zamfara.
Ilorin.
Mention one and let other people speak. You mentioned Kebi, yes? She mentioned Kebi. Who's there? David, give me another example of
Yes, sir.
illegitimate states, illegitimate Hausa states. Example of illegitimate Hausa states.
Zamfara.
Somebody mentioned Zamfara already. Somebody mentioned Kebi. So we have another
Kaduna.
to go. Yes. Is Kaduna part?
Kaduna.
No.
Is Kaduna part?
No.
Was Kaduna part of the list I gave to you? Who
No.
mentioned Buari?
Ademide.
Ademide, I said if you want to speak, you signify. All right, we have Gwari, yes. After Gwari, which one again? We have Kwararafa. Yes, Ademife, Oluwadamife.
Nupe.
Nupe, yes. Anika.
Can you spell
Ilori.
can you spell the Kwarafa?
Kwararafa is spelled Kwara. You can spell Kwara. Kwara, then Rafa. Rafa. Kwararafa. Kwararafa.
Sorry.
Okay, Ademide. Yes. Sorry, let me unmute you. Yes.
Yauri.
Yauri. Yauri, yes. We have Yauri. So we have Zamfara, Kebbi. So we can call it ZKY for those of you. So I'm trying to break it down in a way that you can get it. So you know that Z stands for what? Zamfara. K stands for what? Kebbi. Y stands for what? Yauri. G stands for what? Gwari. N stands for what? Nupe. And I stands for what? Ilorin. It's as simple as that. So we also moved on to the political structure. The political structure in Hausa land. And I said that before the advent of the Sokoto Jihad, Hausa land was ruled by who? Hausa land was ruled by who?
Majda.
The Emir.
Sir.
Emir.
Emir, yes.
Stop.
But I mentioned no.
Sir, please repeat what you said.
I said before the advent of the Sokoto Jihad. The Sokoto Jihad took place in what year?
1908.
1804. 1804. I already corrected it. In your note, there's a mistake of 1904, but it's a mistake. It is 1804. It took place in 1800. That's 1800 is in what century? 19th century.
It's 19th century.
19th century. Whenever you hear 18, know that it is 19th century. When you hear 19 something, it is what?
20th century.
So now that we are in 2000 and something, we are in the what?
21st
century. Do you understand?
Yes, sir.
So by the time we get to 3000 and something, that will be 22nd century. I don't know if I'll be alive then. All right. So I said before the advent of the Sokoto Jihad in 1804, let us not waste our time with this. Hausa land was ruled by the Abe rulers. And you know various...
Madam Fodio.
No, it was Madam Fodio that brought the jihad. He was the one that started the jihad in Hausa land. So I'm saying before 1804 that the jihad took place, before they established the Sokoto Caliphate, Hausa land was ruled by who? By the Abe rulers and some other queens. An example of one of the queens that ruled in Hausa land was the Queen of Daura. Okay? So they were ruled by autonomous kings and queens. But after the Sokoto Jihad of 1804, what happened? That was when the city became, the towns became Islamic in nature, and they started adopting titles such as, Islamic titles such as Emir. You understand? They started adopting titles such as Caliph. And the first Caliph of Sokoto Caliphate was who? Was Uthman Dan Fodio. If I ask you this one in your exam, I don't want anybody to misfire. The first Caliph in Sokoto Jihad after the establishment of the Caliphate was who? You can hear the word Caliphate. The word Caliphate is taken from the word Caliph. So Caliphate is like a place ruled by a Caliph. Emirate is like a place ruled by an what? Emir. Right? So, and we also said, we mentioned some numbers of officials that assisted the Emir in his day-to-day activity. What was the official law in the land? Before we move on to that, what was the official law?
Sharia law.
Sharia law was the official law in the land. And I said the emir was assisted by some numbers of officials, which were what? Can somebody help us out? Yes, Shola?
Waziri.
Waziri. What was the office of the Waziri? What was his duty? The duty of
The
Waziri.
Prime Minister.
He was the Prime Minister. Another one.
Galadima.
Galadima. What was the role of Galadima? What was his duty?
The mayor.
Or administrator of the state.
Of the state, of the Emirates. We also have what?
Madawaki.
Madawaki. What was the role of Madawaki?
Commander of the army.
Please go and understand all these things. Yes.
Maji.
What was the role of the Maji? Treasurer. He was a treasurer. Which one did I mention again? Seriki Ruba.
He's the Minister of Fishery.
Minister of Fishery. Thank you. Then we also moved on to discuss Kanem Borno Empire. Kanem Borno Empire. And I said Kanem Borno Empire was founded around what century?
9th century.
Mid-9th century.
Mid-9th century, not 19th to 9th. 9th century. 9th century. And the first capital was at where?
Njimi.
Not Niger. You write Niger for me, I'll record 0 for you. Njimi. Njimi was the capital, was the first capital of Kanem Borno Empire. And I said the kingdom was ruled by a dynasty called what dynasty?
Seifawa
dynasty.
Seifawa dynasty. Seifawa dynasty. These are important information that you should know. And the dynasty ruled for how many years?
Thousands of years.
About 1,000 years. Not thousands, about 1,000. Right? Because if we say thousands, that means we are already talking about
3,000,
2,000, 1,000 and something. Do you understand? But this history told us that Seifawa ruled for about 1,000 years, which makes it one of the longest reigning dynasties of all time. Okay. And I mentioned a few outstanding rulers in Kanem Borno. I may tell you to list this. I mentioned a few outstanding rulers in Kanem Borno, such as what? Yes?
Mike number 1. Mike number 1 and 2.
If you say one,
Then council of
we have the number 1, we have the number 2.
My Jimmy.
Idris Saloma.
Let me mute you a bit. You are hyperactive today.
No,
Don't worry. I will mute you. I'll mute you later.
No, not to.
You already did that.
Idris Saloma.
All right, already you can mute yourself.
Ma.
David, you are sleeping. Unmute yourself. David, why are you not contributing to the class?
He's very tired.
All right, we have somebody mentioned do number 1, somebody mentioned do number 2, somebody mentioned Mike, Jimmy. Yes,
Idris Saloma.
Idris Saloma, Mike Idris Aloma. Yes, amongst others, right? At the head of government, let us talk about the political structure. At the head of government, who was the head of government?
The
Mai was the head of government. And it was assisted by who?
A council of chiefs.
You see the way you people are vibing right now? That's the same way you should vibe with me during the exam. Before 30 minutes, I want everybody to have cleared this up. You understand?
Chief Magira Magara.
Yes, the mind was assisted.
Magara, like the Magira, the Magara.
The Gunsu.
Gunsu, the first
Sister is Magara.
Yeah. Now let
And the
us
queen mother is
let
Magira.
us
Magira
let
is
us
queen
calm
mother.
down. Let us
Magara
calm
is
down.
the queen sister of
The
sister of
first
the king.
wife is Gunsu.
Let us calm down. Let us calm down.
Calm down.
So
Alright.
David, you are sleeping. You are sleeping. David, you are sleeping. Yes. You're on record. Did you not sleep early?
Sleep tight, David.
Or the class is boring. I can't even hear you. All right. So the Mai was assisted by councils of chief, and we also have members of family of the Mai, such as the Magira, such as the Magara, and the Gumsu.
The Gunsu.
Right? And I said, when Kanem Borno was constantly invaded by the jihadists, they called on who to save them? Who do they call?
Mohammed El Kanemi.
Yes, El Kanemi, Mohammed El Kanemi, and he was able to shield the empire from the invasion of the jihadists. And it was during his time. It was during his time that he also changed when El Kanemi became the king in Borno. It was then he also adopted Islamic title called what? Shehu. So they changed from Shehu to Shehu. So Shehu is also an Islamic title. Emir is an Islamic title. Caliph is an Islamic title. Do you understand?
Sir.
Yes.
Sir.
Yes.
Sir, I have some people say Shehu Shagari. Does that mean that Shehu Shagari is like a king?
Shehu Shagari, his name is what is it called? His real name was Shehu. His father's name was Shagari. So there are some people in Hausa land that they actually named them Shehu, not because that they are kings or whatever. Do you understand? But some people name their children Shehu in northern part of Nigeria.
Is disturbing. Who died in the battle? Is not even.
I've made some people that are distracting us. Yes. So we also did we talk about Nupe Kingdom?
Yes, sir.
And I said Nupe Kingdom was established by who?
You said that.
Established by.
Who established Nupe Kingdom? Swede, yeah. Swede established the Nupe Kingdom. And the Nupe people can be found in what states? Give me examples of states that you can find Nupe people.
Niger State.
Yes.
Kwara State.
Niger State.
Kogi State.
Okay.
State.
And so the Nupe people are
northern sides.
Northern side of where?
Of Nigeria, sir.
I said, yes, it can be found in northern part, but what part of the north? North central. That was what I said. North central. So don't just say north. I want to ask a question. So the Nupe people are dominant in what state? What state are they dominant?
Niger State.
Niger State, yes. The Nupe people. There was actually a time, I once lived in Niger State and I was beginning to learn their language. I was able to greet in Nupe language, and it was quite interesting. But, over time, I've used it to eat pizza and eba. So to God be the glory, great things He has done. Let us move on. I gave you guys various traditions about the origin of the Nupe Kingdom. Am I right or right?
Yes,
Right? And I mentioned historical tradition. So can somebody tell me what I told you about the historical tradition or about the oral tradition of Nupe Kingdom. What does oral tradition say about the Nupe people? Or let me put the question this way. According to oral tradition, who did the Nupe people pay allegiance to? Who did they pay allegiance to? Yes, Anika?
Egyptians.
Egyptians. No. Anika, yes?
CCN or EDE.
Eh?
It's not Sweden.
I said the Nupe Kingdom. Before, wait, let me put the question properly. The Nupe Kingdom was established by Sweden, right? But before it was established by Sweden, who did the Nupe people pay allegiance to? Who was in charge of those kingdoms? Did I mention the Ata of Igala? When I was explaining, did I mention, yes, of Igala, that they used to pay tribute to the people of Igala, to the king of Igala? The king of Igala was the Ata. Did I not mention that it was the same thing that made Sweden to go work on the king's farm? Yes, and that was when he knew that it was even his father that was the king. Did I mention it?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
And this time I ask you guys, you'll be like, you understand. Are you showing me you understand now?
Yes, sir.
See, let me tell you guys, history is simple. As long as you are able, it's not simple.
Sir, history is kind of simple, but it does that the origin of people is long. Yes.
See,
It's complicated.
You know what the syllabus is trying to do for you guys? It's
breaking it down.
It's breaking it down. The syllabus wants you guys to appreciate Nigerian history. Do you understand? For example, for some of you that will still travel out of the country, when you meet a white man and then the person starts to blab and tell you guys that it was the British or the Europeans that brought to Africa the fine system of government, you'll be able to tell the person, look, you don't know what you're talking about. And you can also cite examples, such as the Sokoto Caliphate. They've been in existence before the coming of the Europeans. You can also cite example of the Nupe Kingdom. We have major centralized states. We have the Sokoto Caliphate. We have the Nupe Kingdom. We have the Kanem Borno Empire. We have the Oyo Empire. We have the Edo Kingdom. What else? What have you? So you can, what the syllabus is trying to do is the syllabus wants you to appreciate your history. So you'll be able to defend your country anywhere you find yourself. And that's one of the advantages of history. Do you understand? Now, we also spoke about the political structure in Oyo Empire. How many minutes do we have left?
7 minutes.
You have 24. You have 11
minutes.
11. Then you have to post the record on the portal. Then we have to read it.
Yes. So we spoke about the political structure in Nupe Kingdom also. So the head of the kingdom was who? What was the title? Yes, Victor. The head of Nupe Kingdom, after Sweden established the kingdom, what was the title of the king? Did I mention Etsu? You have this in your notes. I've uploaded it.
Yes, sir.
Etsu was the king, and he was the head of government. The Etsu, the ETSU. That's Etsu. You can't escape all these questions, so I will ask you. I also mentioned that the Etsu was, what were the duties of the Etsu? The duties of the king. Duties of the king. He was responsible for law and order. He was responsible for what?
Law and order.
Law and order. He also carried out measures of administration. You understand? Measures of administration. He administered the land. That's another function. He also settled certain legal disputes. Maybe somebody stole, somebody did this, somebody did that. He settled such legal disputes. I also mentioned that the Etsu was also assisted by who? He was assisted by who? Don't you have the notes on Nupe on the portal?
Yes, sir.
Did I mention the nobility? Did I mention the nobility?
Yes, sir.
Yes, I mentioned the nobility. And their major task was to help the king carry out his day-to-day activities.
Yes, sir.
So after the Etsu, we have the nobility.
Yes.
And we also went to the village level, and I said that at the village level, the head was called what?
I did.
Zitsu.
Oh.
Z-I-T-S-U.
Zitsu.
Zitsu.
Yes, sir.
Please go back to your notes.
The village level, the head was called Zitsu. He was an appointee of the Etsu.
And it was the Etsu that appointed the Zitsu. Do you understand?
Yes, sir.
The Zitsu was also assisted by who? By councils of elders. The Zitsu was assisted. So when I tell you to explain to me the political structure of Nupe Kingdom, these are the things I want to hear.
Yes,
start from the Etsu, who was the head of the administration, and his duty was to maintain law and order, carry out administrative functions. And beside the Etsu, we also have the nobility, whose main function was to what? Was to assist the king in his day-to-day activities. Then you can also proceed to the village level. That at the village level, the village head was called what? The Zitsu. And the Zitsu was usually appointed by who? By the Etsu. And the Zitsu was assisted by councils of elders. Okay? It is as simple as that. Everything we've done so far this time, they are not, I don't think they are difficult. Or is it the way I teach it?
Sir, no, I get everything except for this Nupe.
So now that we've gone over it again, do you understand it now?
No, sir.
Now, I don't mind going through it again for a few minutes. We spoke about the origin of the Nupe people. And virtually all the accounts agreed that Nupe Empire was established by someone called Suede. Do you understand? Except from one of the accounts that said that the Nupe people came from Egypt. Do you understand? Now, but before Suede established the Nupe kingdom, the Nupe kingdom was under Igala kingdom. And the head of the Igala kingdom, the king of Igala, was called what? Was called Atta, A-T-T-A-H. So during that time, they usually paid tribute to the Atta of Igala. Aside from the fact that they used to take farm products as tributes to the Atta of Igala, they also, it is important for every family to make sure that a male is, a male child usually represents the family on the king's farm in Igala land. Do you understand? Now, and I mentioned that during that time, before the establishment of Nupe Kingdom as a whole, a prince from Igala land came. That was when I was using the map. I used the map to also explain that. I projected the map, didn't I?
Yes, sir.
I did. I said a prince from Igala land went hunting in the Nupe land, and that was where he met a princess. And when the princess got pregnant, during when the princess was pregnant, he was called on that his father was sick, and so he had to go back to Igala land. But before he left, he gave the queen, the princess rather, he gave the princess a ring. Now, whenever the child was born, that they should tie the ring around his neck, and that they should name the child Swede. Do you understand? And so when Swede was given birth to, the mother carried out the father's instruction. And I mentioned it that history did not explain to us why it had to take so much time for Swede to even meet his father. Or when his father became king, history did not tell us why his father did not come back to check for him. Not until it was now the turn of Swede to go and represent his family in Igala land that he met his father. And his father, immediately the father sighted the ring that was tied around his neck. He knew that this is my son. And he embraced him, showed him love. But his stepbrothers were not welcoming of him. They didn't welcome him. They were like, where is this guy from? Are you still confused?
No, sir.
No,
You understand? And so it was as a result of that that the father gave him a sword and other gifts that he should go and establish his own empire. And so when he went back, you know, I said the Nupe kingdom before it became a kingdom were loose territories. They were components of little villages. So he now went with the sword and with his followers. He started conquering all those small villages and brought all of them together. They now formed the kingdom. And as a result of that, it automatically made Swede the first Etsu, the first king of the empire, of the kingdom. Are we together?
And what was the name of the empire?
Nupe Kingdom. No, we are talking about Nupe Kingdom. You can also call it empire. Empire, kingdom, they are the same thing. But it's just that when you now look at the definition, empire is usually headed by what? By an emperor. And the kingdom is usually headed by what? By a king. And the chiefdom is usually headed by what? By a chief.
A chief.
You understand? So after talking about the origin of the Nupe people, we also move to the political structure. It is simple. The number one, you talk about the Etsu, which was the king.
Etsu.
Number two, you talk about the nobility.
Right? For the powerful men in army.
You also move to the village level. Talk about the Zitsu. And the Zitsu was also assisted by council of elders.
Council of chiefs.
Or chiefs, yes. Do you understand? So it is as simple as that. So our next engagement is going to be on Oyo Empire. So our Yoruba people. So you already know, if you meet a friend that is from Nupe land or from Niger State, you'll be able to tell the person something about his history. Don't you think the person would be wowed? Like, wow, so you know this. Do you understand? When you meet someone from...
Sir, please, are you posting the notes for Oyo today?
What do you say?
Are you posting the notes for the Empire today? Or
No, I'm not posting it today. In fact, we are not even discussing it today. We are discussing it next week. Because I don't know why my mind was telling me that let us go over what we've done before.
I will do him. I'll introduce him.
Do you understand?
Yes.
Somebody is talking. I'm trying to mute her. I've muted her. Let's go. Right. So we are going to, that is that about today's class. I hope it was impactful. Was it impactful? Do you understand what we've discussed so far? So you can give me, you can tell me, you can explain to me what a centralized state is. When I also ask you to tell me the characteristics of centralized states, you can tell me, right? You can also say something about the Nupe Kingdom or about the Hausa states rather. You can tell me the examples of the legitimate Hausa state and examples of illegitimate Hausa states. When I ask you to explain to me the legend of Bayajida, you know what it is. When I say you should talk about the political structure in Hausa land, you can mention the Madawaki, the Serikin power, the Kiruwa, the Galadima, you can mention them. And you can mention their duties. We also spoke about the Nupe Kingdom. You can tell me the origin of the Nupe people. You can talk about the legend of Swede and the political structure of Nupe land. We also spoke about Kanem Bornu. You can talk about the Mai and how he was assisted by the Gumsu, the Magira, the Magara, and what have you. Right? So that will bring us to the end of the class. Have a good day.